Something crazy has happened in the Trump administration's response to the ongoing crisis. They're listening to Bernie Sanders. At least that's what it appears. So I'm going to go through some of this, and it's going to be hard to deny based on the timeline here. So CNBC here, this is put out on Tuesday. Bernie Sanders called for $2,000 monthly cash payments to every U.S. household to combat coronavirus. What happened? A day later, White House aims to send $2,000 to many Americans. Bernie also pushed for a moratorium on evictions, more robust unemployment insurance, and a waiver on student loan payments. What happened? Breaking. President Trump orders suspension of all evictions, home loan foreclosures. Moving on here. So this is also expanding on what Bernie had discussed on the 17th. So going down here. To address the possible shortage of medical facilities, Sanders proposed calling on the National Guard and the Army Corps of Engineers to expand hospital facilities and build mobile testing centers. He also called for invoking the Defense Production Act, passed in 1950 during the Korean War, in order to guarantee production of necessary supplies like face masks. What happened? Trump says he will invoke Defense Production Act to marshal private sector in response to coronavirus pandemic. Again, this is a day later, March 18th. All of this is happening a day after Bernie said it. And for those of you not paying attention here, let me break it down. Bernie, impose a moratorium on evictions and foreclosures. HUD, 60-day moratorium on foreclosures and evictions. Bernie, use Defense Production Act to up manufacturing. Trump admin, invokes Defense Production Act. Bernie, provide $2,000 to all a month. White House, aims to send $2,000 to many. This is crazy. And because of the failure of the Democratic Party leadership, this is really going to boost Trump come the fall and really hurt Democrats right now. So you see here, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer criticizing Trump's call for $1,000 checks. How do you think this is going to play in November? When you have the Trump administration wanting to give money to everybody during this crisis and the Democratic leadership wanting to stop that. And it's not just Schumer, of course. It's also Nancy Pelosi. This from Common Dreams. Refusal by Pelosi to consider universal cash payments in response to coronavirus pandemic maddening, say progressives. This is a total failure of Democratic Party leadership. That's in quotes. Let me give you some reactions to Pelosi here. This from Jordan Ull. Pelosi's deputy chief of staff is saying that a proposal for giving Americans direct financial relief was shot down because it would be universal and not means tested. Again, think of how this is going to play in November. Donald Trump wants to give everybody a check. Nancy Pelosi, Democratic leadership, wants to means test it, wants to stop that. Right now, the Republican Party, and at the very least, the Trump administration, is moving to the left of Democratic leadership on economic policy. Not on everything, but on economic policy right now in the response to the crisis. Let me show you more here. Zach Carter tweets out, Nancy Pelosi is officially to the right of Tom Cotton on economic support for American families. This is a total failure of Democratic Party leadership. Tom Cotton also was discussing the need for a universal basic income. Shoykat Chakrabarti. First, Pelosi didn't want to give out too much sick leave. Now she doesn't want to give out too much cash. This crazy obsession in Dem leadership with looking reasonable by not doing too much is about as impractical and insane as you can get in the face of a pandemic. Yep. And one more piece here. This is another move the Trump administration is making that looks a lot like socialism. Larry Kudlow said the administration may consider asking for an equity stake in corporations who want aid from taxpayers. Now, the actual democratic socialism response to this, or the action that would be a democratic socialist action, would be to give the power to the workers. But this is more of a authoritarian socialist move in this case. But you're facing an election right now in November where, I mean, who's going to look like the hero coming out of this? When you have the White House aiming to send $2,000 to many Americans, wanting to institute a UBI during this crisis, and you have Democratic leadership against it. Who's going to come out the hero? Donald Trump. This is the disaster that we have all, people on the left, have been warning you about, have been warning Democrats about the entire time. If you put up another status quo Democrat, like a Hillary Clinton, this time Joe Biden, you are going to lose. And that was before the crisis was happening and before the White House was making these moves. Now it's going to look, now the status quo Democratic politics is going to look even more crazy in the face of what is happening during this pandemic. So if they keep going this way, I mean, we are essentially seeing a realignment here in terms of politics, in terms of where these parties sit on economic policy. Now, again, this isn't in relation to everything. A lot of what Trump is doing or not doing right now in terms of the ongoing sanctions on countries they're in conflict with is disgusting, as they're still holding up those sanctions and even pushing for more in some cases, when people are in these countries clearly are in dire situations. But when it comes to the economic policies right now on the table, in the face of this crisis, Donald Trump is going to come out looking like the hero, and Democrats are going to come out looking like the losers.